Donald Trump, when he finished college, he got a degree, but I wouldn't say that he graduated since almost no one ever saw him on the campus he was at. Started to try and make a name for himself in Manhattan. And he came under the spell of the man he calls his second father, the notorious lawyer Roy Cohn. Roy Cohn was the lawyer to the Joe McCarthy committee that claimed that the Eisenhower White House was full of communists and the U.S. Army was run by communists. And Roy Cohn taught Donald Trump how to get away with lying left and right. You just make an audacious big lie. No matter what happens, you never back down. You never say that so much as a comma was out of place. And this film covers the period in his life where Donald was doing this.
For those of us who have not had the benefit of seeing this film, which is by far most of us, just give us an idea of what it is and what's in it.
Well, it's based on journalism by Gabriel Sherman, who has done excellent work. He's the one who did the big and revealing biography of the man who founded Fox News, Roger Ailes, which was also made into a movie. And I'm sure that this film has very carefully and strictly hewn to the public record, because that's the only way to protect yourself from a Donald Trump lawsuit. Although, you know, Donald threatens to sue people all the time. Over the last 36 years, he's probably threatened to sue me 100 times, but he never has.
Right. And this movie concerns purely the early years of the young Donald Trump, as it were. It doesn't take us through the later political career.
Correct. And Donald's career in the 70s and 80s, he has turned into he's mythological. He's turned into myth. The reality is that he claims to be one of the 5 biggest developers in Manhattan. He wasn't even in the top 10. His first big project, what is now the Grand Hyatt Hotel at one of the 2 major New York City train stations, was his father's project. And in my book, The Making of Donald Trump, I tell all about how his father got his son's name put on it, even though it wasn't really his project. Donald, has said repeatedly that no one should be allowed to write anything about him unless he approves. And he said that if he becomes president again, he intends to get a law that will make that the case. And indeed, he posted on Truth Social, his media website yesterday, that he was looking forward to creating a, quote, unified Reich, unquote. Now, they've taken it down, but I think that gives you an indication of his authoritarian and dictatorial instincts.
Right. Now, look, I mean, can you give us a sense of the picture this film paints of Donald Trump, why it's got him and his team so upset? I take it it's not entirely sympathetic.
No, I'm sure that it's not sympathetic because I'm very familiar with Gabe Sherman's work. Donald Trump, when he finished college, he got a degree, but I wouldn't say that he graduated since almost no one ever saw him on the campus he was at. Started to try and make a name for himself in Manhattan. And he came under the spell of the man he calls his second father, the notorious lawyer Roy Cohn. Roy Cohn was the lawyer to the Joe McCarthy committee that claimed that the Eisenhower White House was full of communists and the U.S. Army was run by communists. And Roy Cohn taught Donald Trump how to get away with lying left and right. You just make an audacious big lie. No matter what happens, you never back down. You never say that so much as a comma was out of place. And this film covers the period in his life where Donald was doing this. Donald would do things like call up journalists because his voice wasn't well known and claim to be James Barron, a representative of the Trump organization, and spread all sorts of stories about Donald. He would call a journalist at a wire service like United Press International during the day shift and plant a story they needed confirmed, and then he would return the call in the evening when there was new reporters on to confirm the story by posing as a second person from the Trump organization. I mean, Donald's whole life is just a tissue of lies.
Right. Okay, now his team described this movie as pure fiction. Do the movie makers accept any part of that contention? Do they claim this is a factumentary? Do they claim it is based and grounded purely in truth? Or do they accept that it's been dramatized and maybe some parts of it drummed up a bit? What's the position?
Well, John, it's a dramatization. Let's be very clear about that. But everything I know about it says that this is based very clearly on public record materials because under American law, that's how you protect yourself from an attack by someone like Donald Trump. Now, British law is not the same. French law is not the same. So if Donald were to sue, it may be in another jurisdiction. But while this is a dramatization, scenes like the one about Donald raping his first wife, Ivanka, which she put into the public record in their divorce proceedings. And then when Donald threatened to cut her off financially, she issued a statement that was more nuanced, but in fact didn't deny the original claim, just so I don't want people to misunderstand. That's what you're going to see here, is what's in the public record about how Donald puffed himself up, presented himself as this business genius, which he's not. He is a cash extractor. Business people build wealth. Donald gets his hand on businesses without putting up any of his own money and extracts wealth until the business collapses. For example, in Atlantic City, where at one point he had 3.5 casinos, he never had a single dollar invested in Atlantic City, something I exposed, I don't know, 30 some years ago.
Right, now tell me, as a piece of filmography, is it a good movie?
Well, I haven't seen the film, so I can't tell you, but I can tell you that the other film made from the work of Gabriel Sherman was solid, was well spoken of, even by people who weren't necessarily portrayed in a favorable light. And I would be shocked when I do see it if there's any factual material that isn't exactly correct, because I know Gabe Sherman, the journalist who is behind this, and he does really sophisticated, very thoroughly documented work.